It is good body swap action, but it'll never be as good as that one random scene from the live-action Scooby-Doo movie. Classic.
It is us against them. Us against them. Wow.
Yeah. Trippy.
You really have to nail a movie about body switching for it to not be confusing, and this film does it incredibly well. It's What's Inside is a new Netflix horror comedy starring a bunch of people who play characters just one-dimensional enough that you can keep track of them as they constantly swap between each other's bodies. So this guy is getting married, but he decides to spend one last night before his wedding with a bunch of old college friends partying and drinking, and they invite one guy who they haven't seen since college, and he turns up with this strange device that he's been working on that allows them to switch between bodies. And they decide to use it for a game. Seems like it's going to go terribly wrong. And then it goes terribly wrong, yeah. So one of them is the guy getting married. One of them is a drug guy who talks like any black TV character from like the 90s. One of them is a spiritual kind of weirdo. One of them is an influencer who's just a bit of a bitch, but honestly, doesn't seem like a huge bitch, medium bitch. And then two of them are this couple that's really unhappy. He hate them. He hates just them being there. It's awful. And then there is one other girl. She didn't have a lot of personality, really. She had dyed hair, though, so it was easy to keep track of her. Anyway, these eight decide to play a game where they are switching into each other's bodies, and then they've got to guess who is in whose body. However, they spend most of the time not trying to guess or figure out. They just do drugs and have weird sexual encounters, which makes you question who is actually cheating on who. At least 80% of them, and then the rest were like doing the reverse of emotional cheating. Physical cheating, that's not right. There are a lot of reasons why this shouldn't have worked. It's not actually a horror film, really. It can be, the idea seems like it should be really confusing at times, and it is a little bit sometimes, but not really. And there have been so many other films with similar vibes. It is just this group of people coming together in a cabin in the middle of nowhere, and and they're spending a night there, and things go wrong. But it works perfectly. I'm amazed because they do one round of the game, and there's some weird stuff, but nothing really crazy. It's only the second round of the game where things really go wild, and that is like an hour in. I went back and looked at it because, honestly, watching it the first time, I didn't feel like it was slow. I didn't feel surprised that so little had happened in such a large amount of time. I don't know why. I don't know what about it was so intriguing. I think a lot of it is down to the editing, because this film has, I don't often say this, but phenomenal editing. You notice it so much early on. There's just this fast-paced nature to it that really is incredibly, it's riveting to watch. And then it uses, as it goes on, it introduces this idea that, like, oh, she's done this art that has, like, it looks different under different RGB colors. And then they use that to kind of show you who's in whose body as it goes on. And it's so intelligent. The editing and the directing, so well done. The acting, good. I wouldn't say phenomenal, but I do think they do a good job of doing, who's in whose body, because they have to switch between it. I mean, not loads. I was expecting it to be more of at one point it's going to go crazy and they're all just going to bang, 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 switch a bunch or do something silly like that. It didn't need it. So it didn't bother. I don't normally like a horror movie where you're kind of supposed to hate all of the characters. I normally get annoyed by that. Not so much in this one. And you do. I don't like any of the characters, I don't think. But it is fascinating the way that they managed to make it feel so filled with life. It's so frenetic, even though they are just chilling in this house. It's not even a really crazy party they're having, or, they're doing drugs, but it's not loads of drugs. Nobody gets really drunk smashed. Like, it's such a... I feel like having watched so many movies like that, like Bodies, any slasher horror movie, I was really expecting this to be so much crazier, but it's able to be this dialed down, this chill, and still be exciting and wild, which is really nuts. Also, kudos to them for never having a guy swap into a girl's body and go, but they are all super horny, which, I mean, yeah. It's like Among Us on steroids. I really loved the editing. The acting, solid. I like that they didn't have any, like, real big actors in this, because it made it feel like, yeah, there is no one particular... It kind of mostly is from the perspective of this one guy who's a really annoying, argumentative little piece of shit, but it didn't treat him like a main character, and I really liked that it was just... it really felt like a group project. Do you know what I mean? It is great. I loved the twists and turns. I thought it did a really good job. And I'm giving an out-of-body experience 4 stars. Imagine if there had been like a killer amongst them and you're like, oh, that could have been kind of crazy. Or if it was like a really big group of people. No, it's too much. It didn't need any of this. I get that, yeah, I'm falling into the traditional pitfalls of like trying to plan a Hollywood sequel, yeah.